don't know who's right, who's wrong. I don't know who's at fault and who's not. This is a mess. And I feel that it doesn't really matter who's the one who did it. The point is that those kids need to get the help that they need. But a lot of people are dogging out ISIS for what she's done to publicize this and the fact that her children haven't had a choice in the matter. And a lot of people are dogging out the niece for defending her estranged ex-husband. And what people don't understand about this whole spectrum that we've gone on, a very important thing that we should all remember that this situation is teaching us is that things are going to continue to be exposed. Things that we've been aware of that have been happening in the shadows, behind the curtain, in the dark, are going to be more prevalently visible, and they are going to be exposed. Guys, it's me again. And we are back again for another video. And I'm back with a little bit of an update for you guys. You may or may not have heard about the story regarding a young woman who portrayed herself as a quote-unquote trophy wife go viral when it comes to her family situations. And unfortunately, I have to make an update on this because I can't just leave the story hanging without adding a little bit more information. Some things have come out recently about this particular trophy wife, and as the internet does, more details have surfaced about this situation. And there are a few points that I want to highlight regarding this story and the updates that have been made. There are a few things that I want to make clear to any audience who may be watching me now or in the future, because this is a mess. And I don't necessarily like to focus or dwell upon messy situations because we're not going to lie to ourselves here. This situation is extremely messy, and it's become even messier because now a member of the quote-unquote trophy wife's in-law family has spoken out about this woman and about her gripes or disagreements with what she said. So I have to come on here and play these videos for you guys because we just have to talk about some of the things that I have seen throughout this situation thus far that I feel like are valuable lessons that we can all learn. And like I told you guys before, my intention is not to bash this woman or to highlight negativity within her situation in a counterproductive way. My goal for reporting on this story is to bring a different perspective to some of you who may be following the story so that you can see how educational this situation can be in your life. And honey, there are a lot of ways that this story can be educational for all of us. Now, I want to let you guys know up front, full disclosure, full disclaimer, that I more than likely will not be the first person to break stories. And I know that everybody is running this story into the ground when it comes to their coverage of the situation and what's happened. And you've probably seen these videos before. But I've reviewed these videos a little bit and I'm going to watch it again while we react to it because there's some things that I feel like are necessary to point out in an educational way for people who are open to other perspectives and for people who actually want to learn from this situation so that hopefully they can avoid it in their own lives. So bear with me because you've probably seen this video already and you probably know everything that's been covered so far, but I want to watch it with you guys to point out some things that I noticed about this particular individual coming forward to tell her side of the story or to tell what she's observed in the situation. Now, this woman's name is Dee and her last name is the same last name of the quote-unquote trophy wife Isis's estranged husband. Let's take a look at the first part of what she has to say.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dee, and I am the niece of the trophy wife's husband. Now, I know you know who the trophy wife is because she's been going up and down my timeline for the last couple of days.
Okay, so keep that in mind. She is the niece of the trophy wife's husband.
Her name is Isis, or Paloma, which is her real name.
Not her doxing her. Not her telling this woman's full name. And I'm not going to say anything too tough before we get into the video, but I'm just going to have to point out some things because I told y'all it was messy. And that right there was very petty because she definitely wanted to make it clear what her real name is and let you guys know what it is so that you could be aware.
This lady is completely insane. Let's just start from there. Background story. Her and my uncle got together really quick. From what I've been seeing and what I've been told, she thought that she was getting a come up with my uncle.
From what I've been seeing and from what I've been told. Okay.
But then when things didn't go her way and she pretty much seen that she could no longer hide the things that she was doing behind closed doors. She ended up trying to find a different route, which was to come on here and lie to you all and tell you that her daughter had been touched by her dad, which that is not the case. Her daughter had been touched by her son, and she didn't want anybody to know because she wanted to try to make it seem like my uncle was the bad guy because she wasn't getting what she wanted in the divorce.
Ooh. Now, before we get into the second video, this is my whole thing about the situation. Whenever somebody does something, whenever a person takes a certain set of steps or takes action in a situation, there's always a motive behind it. There's always a reason why an individual would be urged or provoked or inspired to take action in any given situation in life. When I listen to what she's saying, being as she started off talking about ISIS, basically doxing her government name, and then already portraying a perspective that insinuates that ISIS is lying in a way that's trying to convince us all that she's lying, and then backing that up with what she said she saw and also heard, it leads me to believe that her intentions for coming out with this information in some way, shape, or form may be informative, and she may think that she's doing this for a good reason. But in reality, because she said that ISIS exposed this situation in public because she couldn't get what she wanted behind closed doors, she's saying it as if that's a negative thing or that's something that ISIS should be ashamed of, meaning that she may think that her actions, D, the woman speaking, may think that ISIS's actions are shameful in some way or maybe wasn't the right action to take. However, in the same breath, she's turning around and doing the exact same thing, giving us information that we did not have about the entire situation, which ultimately focuses on children, right? So not only is she trying to tarnish the name of ISIS and her reputation by debunking what she's saying, but she's also turning around and doing the same thing that she's chastising ISIS for by exposing this additional information allegedly that she feels is true about ISIS's oldest son. I think it's the oldest son that she's talking about. I just wanted to point that out. Let's move on to the second video.
For you smart ladies out there who sat up there and thought to yourselves, oh, this cannot be true. This can't be, something that a woman would allow, which it's not. It's not something that a woman would allow. I am a victim of sexual assault or whatever you want to call it. And I don't appreciate one bit of the accusations being put out there, especially not just because they're fake, not just because that they're out there just for clout, but because of the fact that this involves a family member of mine who I care about dearly. Multiple family members, if you want to put that out there, because the kids are my family too. But the boys are somebody else's. The girls and the last baby are a part of my family.
Okay, now, she said for all you smart ladies out there who felt like what type of mother would allow this type of situation to go on, and then proceeded to share her personal story about being victimized as well. She said that a smart woman or a smart mother wouldn't allow their child to go through this. And I don't think that any mother would want their child to experience this situation. However, again, it's like she's saying things to get you, the audience, to empathize or sympathize with her perspective. However, she's also negating her perspective by saying that she herself was victimized.
For you smart ladies out there who sat up there and thought to yourselves, oh, this cannot be true. This can't be, something that a woman would allow, which is not.
And what I feel like she's saying is that a good mother or a mother who has their child's best interest at heart would not intentionally or knowingly allow for this type of behavior to take place. And I know personally for me, it's difficult to imagine that this could happen to your child, but more than likely because of the world that we live in, it's definitely a possibility. And I don't think any mother in their right mind would want this to happen to their child. But in reality, if you look at situations that may go on within your own family where you know that victims have been allowed to be victimized, and if you look at major situations like the Menendez brothers, where their mother, I think her name was like Kitty or something, she allowed for her sons to get victimized, it's definitely a possibility that someone would allow this type of behavior. So just because of the way that things are transpiring, if you didn't see my previous video where I talked about the initial allegations that were made and I reacted to Isis's video, I told you guys that I'm not necessarily on any side or the other. Like, I'm not advocating for her behavior because I don't know her personally. But what I do know is that when you're brought up in a situation that appears to be the norm, or that you have no other reference towards the opposite of that situation, sometimes your judgment can be skewed. And in this particular moment, the fact that kids are involved is what my main focus is about, because this happens again very frequently.
It's not something that a woman would allow. Sexual assault or whatever you want to call it. The accusations being put out there, especially not just because they're fake, not just because that they're out there just for clout, but because of the fact that this involves a family member of mine who I care about dearly. Multiple family members, if you want to put that out there, because the kids are my family too. But the boys are somebody else's. The girls and the last baby are a part of my family. And if they're being harmed in any kind of way, I definitely would want to stand up for them, for sure.
She also said that the accusations were fake and that they were put out there for clout. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say the accusations are fake, because who's to say that they're fake? Because none of us were there. None of us experienced this. We are not in that child's mind. We're not in that child's memories. We were not in that household. So for her to say that the accusations were fake, and because I'm pretty sure she was not living with them. If it comes out that she was living with them, then fine. But I'm pretty sure that she was not living with this family. And for her to say that the accusations are fake, it puts me in a position or a mindset to establish that while this woman may feel that her perspective or her opinion is valid, she's also a bit naive or in denial or delusional about the reality of what this situation looks like from the outside looking in. Basically, her prejudice is showing. So as a viewer, or as someone who is ingesting this type of news or information, you have to dig deeper into people's motives and into their mindset to understand sometimes the point that they're trying to get across, or the intentions that they have when it comes to whatever point that they're making. She also talked about this involving her family, quote unquote family members, and she went on to explain that these family members included her uncle, which is Isis's estranged husband, the two daughters, which belong to Isis and her estranged husband, and the new baby that Isis just had with her estranged husband. She proceeded to clarify that the other kids, the other older sons, are not children that she considers to be a part of her family. And that's her prerogative, but I'm just pointing it out.
Her son is the one that the baby first initially said that was touching her. My grandmother was changing the baby one day, and she seen that it was red down there, and she said that her brother did it. Now, when they went to court, the court did not believe what she was saying, because Paloma had already Isis had already put out a case against my uncle, because my uncle was furious when he found out that her oldest son was touching the girls.
So the grandmother was the one who also made a discovery about the young girl's situation, right? And this is extremely sensitive because we're talking about kids, and these kids are too young to have a say in this whole conversation. However, if you stick around and you allow for me to expand upon what I'm saying, I'm going to bring it full circle to you about the biggest point that everyone is missing in this situation. However, the grandmother was changing one of the daughters and saw that there was an issue, and she proceeded to tell them that the oldest son of Isis was the one that the daughter said was responsible. However, she stated that there was nothing that they could do about it, basically because Isis had already made a claim that it was the estranged husband, the father. What I have an issue with is if both people discovered this issue or this victimization, and the grandmother couldn't say that it was the oldest son, even though she's alleging that the oldest son was the one who did it, but she couldn't say that because Isis had already taken action on the father, then when did the grandmother make this discovery? Because the timeline, to me, I'm just trying to understand the timeline, because if the grandmother had discovered it prior to Isis discovering it, then why wasn't that brought up first? And if the grandmother discovered it after Isis discovered, and Isis found out that it was the father who did it because the daughter said that it was the father, then why, after the daughter said it was the father, would she turn around and say that it was her older brother? I'm just not clear on that particular point, and let me know in the comments if you feel like I'm missing something. But one of the points that I'm making when it comes to commentary on this topic is that when you get married or you marry into a family, and that family isn't completely on board with the partnership that you have between you and your spouse or soon to be spouse, there's animosity that begins to brew. And I know this from personal experience. There's animosity that begins to brew, and there's judgments that are made. And a lot of times there are conversations that take place on the back end that you aren't necessarily privy to, because sometimes family members will say things to their family member, which could be your spouse, and not tell you about it. And there's something fishy with that timeline, because if the grandmother and the estranged husband side of the family noticed this going on and they didn't do anything about it, and they noticed it prior to Isis noticing it, then why wasn't any action taken by the family to make something happen for these kids? I get really frustrated because I see two adults online having a family argument and a family spat, and no one seems to be considering the kids, but everyone wants to say it's for the kids. This is a tactic that governments and politicians and certain organizations use as well to gain clout or to gain support or to gain money. They often say it's for the children, it's about the children, it's about the children, but nobody actually gives a damn about the children. So pointing out that timeline is basically me wanting you to observe these things and think about, okay, what is really going on? Because it feels like to me that this is a family grievance that has been festering for a while because they disagreed with their family member's choice of partner. And she's saying that she wants to protect the children, but I don't see, it's hard for me, I'm just saying, it's hard for me to see the grandmother discovering the violation after the mother discovered the violation and this story being true. And to me, honestly, it feels like both individuals, Isis and D, are providing us with half truths. They're both providing us with a little bit of information that's true, along with information that's being fabricated to basically convince us, the public, of who's right or who's wrong in the situation. I just figured I'd point it out because the timelines are a little off. Because if that's the case, then why didn't the grandmother take steps sooner to make sure that the child was okay? Because for me personally, I don't care if it's my son, I don't care if it's my whoever. Listen, I'm a mom, and if I had a grandchild who was being victimized, or the possibility was there for my grandchild to be victimized, I would take the action that needs to be taken, whether directly or indirectly. I would be taking the action that needs to be taken, or at least try to figure out what needs to be done. Let's have a conversation. Let's figure this out. Let's make the parents aware. What do we need to do? Because y'all, listen, you can tell I'm getting passionate about it now. We're gonna have to figure something out because these kids are still, they still need support.
So he went out and tried to, seek help to figure out what he should do about getting her son away from the girls so that they would no longer have to go through this. But as soon as he did that, Isis went and took papers out on him, claiming that he did it because she didn't want her son to go down for it.
See, do you see what I'm saying? How the backtracking I feel like it's a lie. I smell a lie. Lies tend to smell, like fish and boo-boo and stank, funk. And she just slipped up a little bit because the timeline, baby, and I'm getting a little irritated, and I know that y'all can tell, because if the grandmother, again, like I said, noticed this situation and tried to take out some type of action or tried to proceed with action against the oldest son for doing this, because that's what the daughter said, but Isis had already taken out the paperwork preventing the grandmother from being able to do that. But then the estranged husband and father was upset when he found out, to the point where he was viscerally moved to do something about getting the oldest son away from the daughters. Then how is it that then Isis took out the paperwork on him to prevent him from doing that as well, to say that he did it? You see what I'm saying? Because if Isis took out the paperwork initially to prevent the grandmother from doing it, and then the grandmother came and told the estranged husband and father, and then he tried to take out paperwork, how is it possible in both timelines that the grandmother was able to know and also tell the father, but both of them were unable to take out paperwork because for some reason Isis stopped them from taking out paperwork? How could she take out paperwork prior to the grandmother being able to take action when she tried to take out paperwork? But then also that very same paperwork was then taken out in retaliation of the father trying to take out paperwork, because she said, and then that's when Isis took out the paperwork to stop him from being able to do it. It don't make sense, y'all. It don't make sense. Whew, and I'm just keep watching.
On top of all of this, she's sitting over here acting like she's the best parent in the world, when if y'all go look for yourself, y'all will see that she has a child abuse case of her own. Her youngest son was...
Okay. And there's where the jealousy and the envy and the competition amongst family members that often happens in marriages and in-law situations comes in. She's attempting to discredit Isis again. She not only gave us her real name, but she also gave us information about her past and records that allegedly exist, which all of this is alleged. Let me just say that. I have no connection to this situation. I just feel like it's beneficial for all of us to review and evaluate this situation from an objective, balanced perspective. And that's what I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be fair and just and look at this from a balanced perspective while also offering what I've learned from my experience. And it's just the intentions behind her making these videos is very suspect. It's very suspect to me. And I'm going to tell you why I don't really like this, okay, at all. Because now she's trying to build a case against the older son in order to exonerate a grown man, which may or may not be innocent or guilty. I don't know. He may be innocent, but he also may be guilty. And the fact remains that some type of negligence or violence was distributed to these children. And that's the point of this whole situation. It's not the main point that I want to make, so be sure to stick around because this is important, but it is one of the main points. I want to let you guys know as well that I actually tried to look up the information that she's talking about, and maybe I'm just ignorant of this. Like, I don't deal with these types of things on a regular basis. So excuse me for my ignorance of how to find details and documents and things like that. But it could possibly be a situation that is being concealed from us because it involves children and they are a protected class. And I feel that she has not brought that information, because if it were me and I was making such a claim, I would try to have my information backed up. But let's move on to the next video.
She tried to put it on my uncle that he abused her youngest son, which loves my uncle to death. But the day that her and her ex tried to put out there that my uncle had abused her son, he wasn't in the state. He wasn't nowhere near. So once they went to the hospital and they took the little boy to the hospital, the one thing that they didn't do this time is The social workers pulled him aside and started asking him questions and asked him, "Who hurt you?" Come to find out, the little boy told and said that it was her. Not only that, her oldest son has sent my uncle threatening messages. He has rubbed poop on the walls at multiple family members' house, including theirs. He has pushed his younger brother down the stairs to the point where he had a concussion, and she didn't want to take him to the hospital because she didn't want them to know that she had, a son that had been abusing all her other kids. And then not only that, he hasn't just touched the two girls, he's touched all three of the kids. He's touched his little brother, he's touched his 4-year-old sister, and he's touched his 2-year-old sister. But all of this will come out eventually. My uncle cannot say anything right now because the case is still open. But my thing is, you're sitting over here saying that he did all of this stuff, but if he did, the police themselves said that he would be in jail. They would have took him to jail as soon as the hospital said, "Oh my gosh, the baby's been touched." He would have been in booking right away. He wouldn't be out right now working. He wouldn't be out right now being bothered with all of this extra stuff that you're putting on him because of the fact that you want money. Like, what mother uses this platform to sit up there and say, "My babies have been," or "My babies have been touched," excuse me, and then sit over there and then try to put a GoFundMe page up? Do you know why she's putting that GoFundMe page up? Because my uncle has had enough. He's not giving you any money. He's not sitting over there playing into your little schemes where she sits over there and tries to have her kid's father call his phone to get him to talk to the kids so that she can say he's in breach of a restraining order. Like, there's so much proof behind all of this stuff that you all do not realize that is going to come down on her head. But yet you all are sitting over here believing her sob story, not doing your research, and paying her money. This girl has up to $2,000 already on GoFundMe. Probably more now because I haven't even checked this morning. But it's crazy how y'all will go for a black man or go for any man off of what a woman says. Like, women don't lie every day to get ahead.
Okay, that's a lot. She said a lot. First off, if the oldest son was victimizing the other siblings, my question is, and I feel like what the important question is who victimized him to think that that was okay? Now, it seems that she's alleging that ISIS was the one who the social worker found out through pulling aside the son who complained of abuse from the father, because that's what she said. She was saying, if I'm not mistaken, let me run it back and make sure.
She tried to put it on my uncle that he abused her youngest son, which loves my uncle to death.
Okay, girl, adding in all the extra. This is the thing. She's trying to convince you of something, and I just, this is the thing. It's crazy. I don't even know what to say, but I need to say something because I can't stand the hypocrisy. And to say that ISIS tried to pin some type of violation on her estranged husband for her youngest son, it just makes the situation even more convoluted. And all of this is very convoluted. But for her to say that she tried to pin it on her estranged husband for violating the youngest son, but then finding out what?
She tried to put it on my uncle that he abused her youngest son, which loves my uncle to death.
Now, I don't know what type of abuse that she's talking about, but she didn't make that clear.
But the day that her and her ex tried to put out there that my uncle had abused her son, he wasn't in the state. He wasn't nowhere near. So once they went to the hospital and they took the little boy to the hospital, the one thing that they didn't do this time is the social workers pulled him aside and started asking him questions and asked him, who hurt you. Come to find out, the little boy told and said that it was her.
Now she's making an accusation that Isis violated her own child. And if you saw what she was saying, she said that they asked the son who hurt you. Like her mouth was about to say touched you, but she changed it to say hurt you. And I know this because y'all will see me do this. And that's why sometimes I have to edit so much, because I start to say one word and then I say a different word, and a different word pops up in my mind as what would be better to say. Okay. And what it appears to be to me is that she's trying to accuse Isis of violating sexually her own son. But if that were the case, then wouldn't Isis be in jail as well? Like, wouldn't she not have custody of her children if this was a whole situation that involved a caseworker? So it seems like she was talking about physical abuse, as in whoopings, but still, if that was happening, it seems like a caseworker should have or would have been involved, where her custody would be questioned.
Not only that, her oldest son has sent my uncle threatening messages. He has rubbed poop on the walls at multiple family members' house, including theirs. He has pushed his younger brother down the stairs to the point where he had a concussion, and she didn't want to take him to the hospital because she didn't want them to know that she had, a son that had been abusing all her other kids. And then not only that, he hasn't just touched the two girls, he's touched all three of the kids. He's touched his little brother, he's touched his 4-year-old sister, and he's touched his 2-year-old sister.
Now, if it comes out that this father is guilty, because I don't know, again, this is all alleged, she gonna look real dumb. And I feel like all of them look dumb already. Okay, let's just make that clear. But she's gonna look real dumb, because this, to me, is shameful in itself. For you to be a grown woman on this here internet working to exonerate an uncle, a family member, who you can't even confirm or deny whether or not they took part in this, other than your personally biased opinion of said family member because you're their family member, and then trying to pin it on a child. It's like you're using a child to exonerate a grown person and then adding details to further embarrass this child. To me, it's leaning further and further into the territory of the fact that this particular woman does not care about the well-being of Isis's older two children. And that's why I pointed out her saying in the beginning that she considers her uncle, which is Isis's estranged husband, the 2 daughters, and her newborn baby son to be part of her family, but she doesn't consider the older 2 sons to be part of her family. So basically, with that logic, she feels like it's okay to embarrass and basically belittle this young man who may be going through something extremely traumatic and tumultuous himself in order to exonerate a grown man. And while I can empathize and sympathize and be able to find truth in some of the things that she's saying, I would never respect a woman who has that type of aggressive, I don't want to say hatred, but has this type of aggressive response to her family being threatened and chooses to go after a child. Because even if I don't like your child, or even if your child has done something to my child, while I will stand up for my child, I would never want to put another child in danger. I would be coming after the adults, and I would do my best not to involve that child, because I don't know, at this point, it's looking like all of us are going to be exposed for something at some point. So I'm not going to say that I am perfect. And I get it, because if I was looking at this family from the outside and I was a member of this woman D's family and looking at the relationship of my uncle and having the reference of Isis having other children, and then the combined children are being hurt by this other child, I would probably feel a way too. So I can't necessarily fault what she's doing. And I'm not saying that I'm better than her, because I might have done it in the past. But what I'm saying is, as time has gone on and I've learned some hard lessons myself in life, that's just something that we have to stop doing. That's something that we all have to learn about combat and confrontations amongst each other is that you're going after these kids when the kids can't really control who their parents are. Also, I still have the question of why would the older son be participating in this behavior? And I brought up the Menendez brothers earlier when it comes to their mother. And my question is, if the youngest son was being hurt, as she said, and the social worker came in to evaluate the situation, and the initial accusation was against the estranged husband slash stepfather of Isis's prior youngest son, but then it came out that the social worker talked to the youngest son and found out it was Isis. Now it's the older brother. It's like, okay, from the video, from what I recollect in the video that Isis made about being a single mother and getting married, she was, I believe, talking about maybe her oldest son was around 5 years old at the time. She could have been talking about her youngest son. I don't know. But these children were very young, apparently, at the time that Isis met her estranged husband. And if it's a possibility that he has violated his own children, I firmly believe that it's an extremely strong possibility that he violated her older sons as well. Because why would the older son be doing all these things? Because what it sounds like is that D is trying to assert that the oldest son is disturbed from a prior situation. And unfortunately, because of the way that Isis is moving and some of the things that she's doing and decisions that she's made and information that has come out on the back end, it's believable to some people that she possibly could have put her children in harm's way in a prior situation. I feel like she put her sons in harm's way by even being in this marriage and being in this relationship and dating this man. She had a relationship that she was in prior to dating her estranged husband. And honestly, she was very irresponsible with the rearing and the raising and the upbringing of her children. So we're not going to sugarcoat that and act like that's not what happened. However, again, my position is about the children and their best interests. And there are a lot of factors that go into a mother being a bad mother. And there are also a lot of outside people that could either perpetuate or assist with that happening. Because if we're going to talk about Isis being a bad mother, which there's proof that she might have been someone who wasn't making good decisions. We see that clearly. We also have to ask the question of why was she allowed up until this point to continue to make these bad decisions? Because I understand accountability. Don't think that I don't understand accountability. But I also understand that at times there's often one person who gets blamed for a negative situation when in reality there were a lot of factors or a lot of people who were involved in the domino effect or the avalanche of that situation becoming so negative. Let's just be real. So why was it that the son was doing all of these things? I think there's a conversation that needs to be had, and I'm praying and hoping that Isis is getting her children the help that they need and not just the daughters.
But all of this will come out eventually. My uncle cannot say anything right now because the case is still open. But my thing is, you sitting over here saying that he did all of this stuff, but if he did, the police themselves said that he would be in jail. They would have took him to jail as soon as the hospital said, oh my gosh, the baby's been touched.
It seems like to me that no one can actually confirm, truth be told, what was going on. That's what it feels like to me. And I don't know if this is a miscarriage of justice against these children by the judicial system or what's going on, because it seems like if Isis was deemed as a negligent parent by the judicial system, those children wouldn't be in her custody either. And if they're possibly being victimized by the estranged husband and there's some type of investigation going on and he can't talk about it, then there's got to be some type of case going on that we don't see or that we don't know about. Maybe
he would have been in booking right away. He wouldn't be out right now working. He wouldn't be out right now being bothered with all of this extra stuff that you're putting on him because of the fact that you want money. Like what mother uses this platform to sit up there and say, my babies have been raped or my babies have been touched, excuse me, and then sit over there and then try to put a GoFundMe page up? You know why she's putting that GoFundMe page up? Because my uncle has had enough. He's not giving you any money. He's not sitting over there playing into your little schemes where she sits over there and tries to have her kid's father call his phone to get him to talk to the kids so that she can say he's in breach of a restraining order.
Now, I will say that I agree with her on that point slightly. And the bigger picture of this situation makes me a little bit of a fence rider with that whole situation, because I've seen a lot of people talk about the fact that it was very selfish of ISIS to come online and expose her children's information. And before she kind of scrubbed her YouTube, I never knew about, let me tell you something. I never knew about ISIS before this moment. I didn't know that this girl existed online. I didn't know that this young lady was doing this type of content, making these videos, because I personally don't watch these types of videos. But for me, the whole situation is a really big learning experience. And before she scrubbed her YouTube channel, I definitely was being nosy, and I went to go see her community tab, and I scrolled down her community tab when people were talking about the initial video. And I saw the initial video, but then I went to her community tab because I wanted to see, I know this might sound bad, but hell, we're not going to act like we all wasn't there doing the same thing. I wanted to see what her kids look like. And she put her kids all over her YouTube channel. She put her kids all over her page. And, you know, one thing that I will say is that I don't like how front facing her children were in that whole situation. Like, I can't remember the name of the couple that just split up. They broke up, and they, I think, were having tax issues and got evicted from their home, but they were like a family YouTube channel. I know y'all are going to probably tell me in the comments, but I can't remember their name. But they had their kids on camera, and they were a front facing channel. And a lot of times people innocently post their kids online and things like that. And I think this is the learning curve that we're all starting to have when it comes to the internet, even innocently, because you kind of can't do that. And I say this with a caveat, because if you look at my channel, or if you have been watching me for a long period of time, I definitely have videos on this channel with my kids included. And I actually still have a video on this channel where I was cooking with my son. And this is the thing. I feel like in every situation, there will be balance that is required. In every situation that you enter into, you're going to have balance, whether it's a balanced perspective or it's balanced actions. There's going to have to be balance. And what I will say about what she said regarding what kind of mother would put this online, and then she went on to say that it was because ISIS was struggling financially and that the estranged ex-husband had cut her off financially. She's trying to describe the fact that ISIS is using her children to gain sympathy and gain financial assistance off of the people who are watching. And I've kind of gotten that vibe as well, just because of how the situation played out. However, at the same time, if this is an allegation that turns into truth, she definitely will have needed financial support if this man is abusing her financially because she decided that she doesn't want to subject her children to further violation. However, I feel that in reviewing ISIS's channel before she kind of took everything off of the channel, there were a lot of videos and pictures that she put up about her children or with her children, very front facing on YouTube. And the issue that I have with that is that YouTube is a different ball game from like Instagram and Facebook. Facebook is an older platform. Facebook has been around for a long time. People on Facebook have a lot of pictures and videos that have collected over time because it started out as more like a personal friend and family social media platform. Instagram was kind of the same way, but it was a little bit different. However, since Instagram was initially based as a picture sharing app, Instagram has evolved. But if you go back to the original intention behind Instagram, it was to be able to share higher quality pictures and photos and memories that people were having and that your friends were having, kind of like Facebook was to written word. Instagram was that to visual representation. So it could also be considered an archive for a lot of pictures and a lot of videos that people may have innocently shared. But when you get to YouTube, YouTube is a totally different ball game. There's a lot of weird people on YouTube. There's a lot of people who just scroll and scroll and scroll to find what they're looking for, let's just say. And it's different from the Facebook and the Instagram conversation, at least in my opinion. It's a lot more dangerous to put your child on a platform like YouTube than it would be to share a family photo on Instagram or on Facebook. So that's where I agree with her in this situation, where Isis needs to really learn some things about how she's been moving, because a lot of her actions and a lot of her choices could appear and be deemed as very questionable. But again, I'm not holding this against her. I'm not holding it against either one of these women for speaking out, because they have their reasons. But I just wish that they could both see themselves from an outside perspective and step away from the situation, because they're so close to the situation that they're not realizing some of the ways that improvements may need to be made in the best interest of these children.
Like, there's so much proof behind all of this stuff that you all do not realize that is going to come down on her head. But yet you all are sitting over here believing her sob story, not doing your research, and paying her money. This girl has up to $2,000 already on GoFundMe. Probably more now, because I haven't even checked this morning.
And she's checking every day. She's checking every day. Trust and believe me when I tell you, I don't know for a fact, and this is just a hypothesis, but she said it out her own mouth that she didn't check today. But the last time she checked, she was up to $2,000. So what that leads me to believe is that the estranged husband's family is sitting around watching all this play out. And they're basically on Isis's neck, trying to find holes in the story to where they could possibly vouch or advocate for their family member, the estranged husband, in a way that would make Isis look bad. And my thing is, that's why, like I said, what I said earlier about the jealousy and the envy and her bringing up that Isis is doing this for clout. It's crazy, because what are you doing it for? More than likely, because I don't know for a fact, but more than likely, D would probably say that, oh, she's doing it for the kids, or she's doing it for her family, or she's trying to do the right thing because what Isis is doing isn't right. But if you turn around and look at yourself, you're doing it for the same reason. So let's not fake the funk. It's okay if people make choices to do certain things the way that they want to do them, but don't lie to yourself in the process of trying to kind of lie to other people of why you're doing it, to put yourself on the pedestal, to make people think that you are somehow in a class all of your own or in a different bracket than Isis.
But it's crazy how y'all will go for a black man or go for any man off of what a woman says, like women don't lie every day to get ahead. I am a strong advocate for black women, for women in general, for people in general. But men, I feel like we need to just slow down a little bit. And
now, what she said about women lying is definitely true. And that's why I said, like, a lot of the things that she was saying in this video, as a person observing this, child, this is one of the main points I wanted to make as well. When people bring family drama to the internet, it's not because we all necessarily need to know. There's a caveat to this that I feel like is positive, which again, I'm saving it till the end. And I know it's probably long, but just hear me out. This is not for us. This is for y'all. This is not for us. This is for y'all. And the only reason why you're bringing it to the internet is because that's where we vent now. The internet is the therapist chair now. And I'm not going to say I haven't done it too. A lot of times when I bring my personal information to the internet, it's because I just been fed up. And to be honest with you, I really don't have a lot of people to talk to about situations. And majority of the situations that I go through never see the light of day on the internet unless I'm using them as an example to tell you guys or to tell someone else something that could help them that I learned from a negative situation. And the reason why I have such an opinion on this situation, and I can touch on some of the things that are going on in the deep-seated resentment that this family has towards Isis, is because I've been in that position. Okay. I've been that girl who was surrounded by people who had jealousy and envy and hatred towards me in a family that I was made to feel somewhat welcome in, but was actually never really accepted in. And I can see from how Dee approached this situation that that's the attitude. And that makes me question even further what she's saying. And it's just unfortunate. Let's go to the next video.
I always think that they're the bad guys because it goes both ways.
That's
And
true.
I am a mother of a black little boy. So for me, I can understand why she would want to cover up for her son, but at the same time, me personally, if my son is doing anything like that and I have other kids, I want to get him the best help possible away from his siblings until he is confirmed better. And I know he's no longer a threat to the other kids in the house, because you can't just sit over there and single out one kid and be like, oh, I'm going to protect this one, but whatever happens to the other ones just happens. That's not okay.
And I agree with her when she says that, because I'm a mother of boys. I have 3 boys. I wanted a daughter at some point or another, but I felt that God chose for me to be a boy mom. And it is hard sometimes to advocate as a woman, but also understand the opposite perspective because you have a male child. And I can see where she's coming from with this. And I'm not saying that I disagree with her, but I can see where she's coming from. Sometimes men are given burdens or accused of things that they may not have actually done, or that they may have had some part in, but the story was exaggerated and they're never really believed fully, because the idea is to always believe the woman. And just because that's a fact, it doesn't deny that there aren't negative men out there. But there also is an issue sometimes on both sides where one person is believed over the other because of whoever's evaluating the situation having a personal bias. And for me, because children are involved, I want the children to get the help that they need and to get the support that they need from adults who really care about them. And if the parents aren't going to do it, then somebody needs to do it. However, sometimes the system doesn't do it either. So that's my whole point, that I want the kids to have what they need. But it is true that a lot of men have been put in certain situations, especially minority men, because a woman fabricated or exacerbated a story that may not have been closely related to the truth. While I also have my own experience with my ex-husband and things that he tried to accuse me of as a parent, because I've been in situations like this where DFACS or DCFS was called on me and I've been exonerated from any wrongdoing in those situations. However, there are steps that need to be taken. That's why for me, when she was talking about the younger son making accusations and a social worker being involved, I feel that that's a little, I don't know if I feel completely persuaded by what she said, because when I was involved in those types of situations, there was literally a therapist, a counselor was involved, not only with the evaluation of the case, but also afterwards, we were assigned a therapist through the DFACS or DCFS system that continued to monitor our progress as a family moving forward. And they didn't require for everyone to be involved, because this has happened multiple times, unfortunately, with the drama. Okay, again, story for another day. But the 2 times that I had to deal with this with my children, the therapist didn't require for both parents to be involved. I was involved because I wanted to make sure that I was involved, and I was actually pretty happy about the free therapy that we got, because I want my kids to be able to process their emotions, and I wish I could afford therapy for them. But the first time I was involved, but their dad refused to be involved. He didn't answer the social worker's calls and he refused to be involved. And even though I told him about it, he refused to be involved. The second time he made some effort, we'll say, to be involved. But that's why I feel like there's a hole in that part of the story, because if the youngest son was making these accusations about the oldest son or about the father or about the mother, not only would there be some type of repercussions when it comes to custody, but there would also be follow-up information or follow-up action that was taken by the judiciary system to try to protect these children, or at least I would hope that's how it was done. And again, I'm in a different state, so I have no idea how this works in other states. But that's why I kind of feel like there could be some holes in her story, because even though it is true that you can't always believe what women say, it's also true that you can't always believe what men say, and you can't always believe what people say, because people lie. And she is making valid points. And I have sons, so I would really be upset if they were ever accused of something that they didn't do. And it's just very unfortunate that it's come to this point. I also agree with the fact that if my sons were accused of something and I felt that there was some type of improvement that needed to be made, I would want for that improvement to be made before they would be allowed around their other siblings or around society as a whole. Because I do believe personally that there is too much pacification at times with mothers towards their sons versus mothers towards their daughters. And that happens so much in the Black community. So I can feel what she's saying on that point.
And then you want to sit over here and portray to these women out here that, oh, it's okay to be a trophy wife. Just go for that rich man type deal. No, how about go get your own money? How about stop sitting over? Stop. Please, ladies, please stop waiting on a man to fulfill your life financially, spiritually, emotionally, all this other extra stuff, and find your own way.
She did not lie.
Do that. Because when you find your own way and you know your self-worth and you know what you are capable of and what you will tolerate and what you won't tolerate, then the good man will come find you.
She did not lie. And she got ISIS on that one. Because I don't know if y'all keeping score in the comments? Let me know. Let me know what you think about what I'm saying so far. Also, let me know any thoughts that you have to add. But she got ISIS on that one, because if this girl was not desperate, which I did say in my original video that she was acting very desperately, and I believe Shira7 came out and said, my name is Bennett, I ain't in it. And she excused herself from the conversation. But she's right. That's another point about this whole situation and why we're here. Why this situation has gotten to this point is because this woman, Isis, was desperate to be in a marriage or to be in a relationship with someone so that she would be taken care of. She already portrayed actions and behaviors that showed that she was a little bit deadbeat, okay? And I don't know her situation, allegedly, but she portrayed actions and behaviors that showed that she really wasn't focused on bettering herself, learning about herself, resolving her trauma, getting through situations in a productive way by taking accountability and doing reflection on self to see why she was continuously put in these situations. And that's what leaves not only you as an individual vulnerable to people who want to victimize you, but it also, in this situation, especially because she had children, made her children be in a vulnerable position as well.
But until you know your self-worth, you're just going to keep picking up anything off the street and being like, oh, okay, he got a little bit of money in his pocket, so he going to treat me right. No. Because the one thing that you don't realize is that man that has that money, he's also got a little brain in his head too. So he also is already aware of these women that's coming out here to do these things to him or to try to trap him in these ways.
But that doesn't mean anything, because if the man is smart enough to know that a woman is going to trap him in these ways, and he's smart enough to know that a woman only wants to be around him for his money, he should also be smart enough to know that the quality of the woman that he gets may not necessarily be up to par when it comes to fulfilling a lifetime goal of achievement in his relationship. So it's all about choices, y'all. The woman is not worse because she goes for a man with wealth. And the man is not worse because he goes for a woman for image. But you have to be prepared within that mindset for what you're going to get when you do that. So it doesn't make him any better because he's the man with money. And it doesn't make Isis any worse because she's the woman going after the money. It makes both of them a little ignorant, to be honest.
Just for money or attention or the clout or whatever. Like, come on. We are in 2024, about to be 2025. Why are we still doing these same little tricks? Somebody needs to be teaching y'all how to make your own money, how to get your own way. So then that way, when you do find that good man with a lot of money, then y'all can build together instead of sitting over there waiting for him to give you an allowance or whatever, your little stipend for the month. Be real.
We also need to teach our boys the positive values of women when it comes to what type of woman that they look for and how to sustain and perpetuate their own good wealth and image when it comes to choosing a woman as well. So while she's making valid points about women, the opposite argument could also be presented when it comes to valid points about men who are in that position or in that situation.
Just want to let y'all know, for the crusties and the dusties, please be mindful of what you put out here on the internet, because you could be getting a lawsuit coming to your doorstep for you putting out accusations of stuff that you have no idea about. Everything that I'm telling you right now on this computer screen or on this platform, I'm letting you know that this is the truth.
Not her coming for the commentary. Not her coming for the commentators, girl.
This woman is no records that she has been, that little girl has been touched by my uncle.
I hope that she don't eat them words too, because she was talking about all of us putting stuff out here. You putting a few things out there too. You better hope they don't come for you. Let me stop.
No records, but it is a record that she had a diaper rash.
Oh.
It is a record that she has child abuse charges against her. It is record that her son has sent my uncle threatening messages. It is a record that she's not telling the whole truth on this platform, what she said in the courtroom.
And see, this is the thing too, right? She's talking about, now D, I'm talking about D, is talking about ISIS's other son as well. And when it comes to what he's been doing. But she mentioned earlier that ISIS didn't want him to get in trouble, and ISIS wanted to protect her own son from being held accountable for his alleged possible actions. However, how does she know? You get what I'm saying? How does she know that ISIS's oldest son is the culprit for all of these things? And that's what I meant when I was talking about the conversation between in-laws and your spouse's family. If ISIS didn't want anybody to know, I'm pretty sure she didn't want y'all to know. And the only reason why y'all probably know is because ISIS's estranged husband more than likely was telling you. That's interesting.
The courtroom that she had my nieces sitting in, looking at the wall the whole entire time, so that they wouldn't get emotional looking at my uncle.
Or also, there could have been a conversation that took place amongst family, like they all could have been together. ISIS, her estranged husband, the kids, the grandmother, you know, they could have all had conversations, or there could have been family members who have maybe visited the house, or the kids came to their house, and there were things that were discovered and there were conversations that were had. But one thing I want you guys to remember, because I experienced this as well when I was married, my ex-husband's family would ask me how things were going, and I would innocently tell them about things. And it wasn't even that they were prying, but there may be conversations going on, and there may be different things that happened with different family members, and then it ends up coming up, and maybe there has to be something done or whatever, whoop-de-whoop, blah, blah. Be very cognizant and aware, because sometimes your spouse's family will be your quote-unquote shoulder to cry on, friend or support to lean on, but they're only doing that to gain information about you to talk to the other extended family about. And that's what I feel like this situation is kind of resembling, is that if ISIS and her estranged husband maybe were having difficulty parenting and co-parenting with her pre-existing children, and then they had more children that came into the mix, it feels like the family was helping with the children, and they were helping to try to possibly find solutions or provide support for ISIS and her estranged husband. But in the moment, it more than likely, possibly, hypothetically, could have been a situation where the family was trying to come off as if they had ISIS's back and that they were giving her some type of advice. Because I'm still thinking, like, how does she know that the oldest son is doing all of these things? Yes, he could have done it at family members' houses, but what I'm saying is ISIS may not have been the only one to decide that they should cover that up, because at the end of the day, more than likely, they were accepting the other children that ISIS had, her two oldest boys, within their family. But she made it clear at the beginning that they are not a part of her family and what she considers to be her family. But if the oldest son was smearing poop on the wall and at family members' houses, like she said, those older two boys were at those family members' houses. Now, they may not have been there alone. They may have been been there for family functions or holidays, but they were there at family members' houses, which means that they were included in the situation, which means that the reference point to where the family would have known about what the boys were doing would have been clear. And there may have been conversations about what was going on with the boys, not to mention the conversations that could have been happening unbeknownst to Isis between her estranged husband and his family. And there could have been recommendations or conversation at least about how things would look if it were to be made public or if it were to be brought to some type of judiciary system. I'm just saying, because sometimes you have those family members that act as if they like you or they act as if they're on your side to get in your business or to know what's going on. And they will give you quote unquote advice about how to handle a situation. And a naive, very young woman may not know that her husband's family is not telling her things in her best interest because she wasn't made aware or she's never had that experience. And that's one thing that is prevalent in this issue. And a point that I've been making this entire time is that even though hindsight is 2020 and we may all look at this situation from the outside looking in and be able to see the cracks, sometimes when you're close to the situation, it's hard to see the cracks before they form or as they're forming, because it might not look like a crack. It might just look like the regular landscape of your situation without any other reference to pull upon.
Because they love their daddy. And now he has to suffer without seeing his kids because of the fact that this woman wants to lie and slander his name because she did not get what she wanted in the divorce. The divorce that she did not put out there, by the way. Because me personally, if anybody had did anything to my kid, oh, baby, I'm going down there first thing and divorcing this person. I'm not about to sit over there and wait. If anybody me or takes my goods without me and my knowledge or without me saying yes, oh, baby, I'm not about to stay married to somebody like that. That's crazy. But for you to sit over there and say that he's done all these terrible things to you and yet it took him to divorce you and not you to divorce him, open your eyes, ladies. Stop being stupid.
Oh, my eyes are very open. And it seems like a weird situation is going on here with timelines. Now, from what we've heard from Isis and how this played out, there was no rift in the marital bond. There was no talk of divorce already. There was like this whole stealth maneuver that she performed to get her kids out of the house, to get them checked out and see what was going on, which again, I feel like both of these ladies are fabricating information. So we're going to take this with a grain of salt. But there was this whole thing about her having to be secretive and her having to be sneaky when it comes to getting the kids out the house. But now we're talking about the divorce papers being filed, right? This woman is giving a whole lot of information that we did not necessarily need, but that definitely helps to provide perspective. And I don't think that Isis's estranged ex-husband filed the paperwork before this situation happened. Now, he could have. I might be wrong, but it seems to me that if he was so sick of Isis and he was so frustrated with her, you know, if we're gonna look at the situation from what she said, because that could be a lie, he would have filed the paperwork after all of this blew up and after all of this happened. Now, what could have also happened is that he may have filed for divorce. This is also a logical possibility. He may have filed for divorce prior to Isis making these statements like D is alleging. And because he may have been trying to cut her off, Isis may have been wanting to handle this situation privately, because I feel like, at least hopefully, I would hope, but I feel personally that at this point, I told y'all in the last video, Isis is learning some hard lessons. And she may have learned a very hard lesson if her estranged husband filed divorce papers on her after she just had another baby. This is her third baby with him. And now he doesn't want to be with her. And he could have possibly been trying to keep her from having access to funds. And it could have been a situation where she was kind of out on her butt with no way to support herself and her children. And what I feel is that if he filed for divorce prior to Isis making these allegations, which prompted Isis to make these allegations allegations and create the infamous I Married a Monster video online, then there could have already been the possibility of some type of financial abuse against her. And she may have already had enough motive and possible proof, because all of this happened back in September. I feel like there was a conversation going on where she found out about these situations and probably tried to get some type of money out of him. Now, I don't know. Okay, y'all let me know in the comments. Do you think my theory is on the nose? Because I believe that there could have been a rush to file divorce papers by the estranged husband to try to alleviate himself of as much financial obligation as possible. However, what makes more sense to me, if I'm going from my own thought process and experiences and my potential actions as a mother, if I would have found out as a mother that my estranged husband is potentially violating my child that I had with him, and there was a prior history of him potentially violating my other children that I had prior to him, which I kind of don't believe that, because to me, if Isis was accused of violating her youngest son and the estranged husband was exonerated, I spoke about that earlier about how that whole thing to me seems like it doesn't fit. But if Isis knew that her estranged husband was potentially violating her youngest son and she stayed with him, that's dumb. That's another thing that, girl, okay, I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, but that's another thing that's a problem, which makes me think, is that really true? Because if she's coming out about it now for her daughter, why didn't she do the same thing with her son? And then the lady D said that she couldn't do the same thing with her son because then she was accused of doing it, which that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But back to the whole divorce, if Isis had any prior knowledge of wrongdoing or any kind of inkling of her estranged husband having some type of inappropriate behavior with her children, whether it was her prior children or her current children with him, and then she wanted to leave him and maybe he threatened some type of financial retaliation, and then she left anyway and he retaliated financially as he threatened, possibly, allegedly, hypothetically, then she would have had no other choice than to try to maybe find a way to get some type of quick funds. And I'm not saying it's right, but that's what it kind of feels like to me, because she's trying to say, well, what woman would stay with a man who violated their kids? I don't think she necessarily was going to stay, especially if she left like she did. I don't think she was necessarily going to stay. I hope she would not. But if she did leave and she already didn't have the money, because divorces cost money. The marriage license costs money, but filing divorce papers costs more than your marriage license in most situations that I've come across. And if she doesn't have the money to support her kids, how are we going to say that she has the money to go out and file for divorce? You get what I'm saying? Because there are situations and programs like legal aid where you can go up there and you can get help like filling out the paperwork and stuff, but there's still a certain amount of money that you have to pay. And wherever she's residing, whether she's in the home that they shared and he's not there, she still has to pay the bills there. Or if she's in another space, she's still going to have to find financial support to support her kids. And if this situation would tarnish her estranged husband's business deals, his reputation, his image, and he was threatening her with financial retaliation and then acted upon that, I can see a situation or a scenario where she then would retaliate on him, meaning Isis would then retaliate on him with exposing his potential alleged secret. So all the details that she's adding in this situation to me, and the way that she's presenting these details with her tone, is very sketchy. And just because there are certain details that may be true, it doesn't mean that the whole truth is being told.
Because this girl is full of lies. Full of lies. Everything y'all heard. First off, let me ask you. Let me get this. Look, who wipes their eyes all the way up here like this?
See, now, girl,
When
you're
you're
doing
crying?
too much. Now you're
Who
doing
does
too
that?
much.
Nobody.
But okay.
If I'm wiping my face, I'm wiping all down here because I'm a sloppy crier. And I'm pretty sure most of y'all are too. I don't know why y'all sitting over there trying to act like them housewives doing all that little. No.
Everybody's not a sloppy crier. And I'm just going to say that. And for example, my mother, before she passed, I found out that she had a busted tear duct. For some reason, there was something, I don't know, she had an eye infection as a child or something, but she had a busted tear duct and she only cried out of one eye. So let's not go there. Let's relax.
No. Let them tears drop if you real. Because if I'm talking about my baby and something like that happened, oh, I don't care if it's ugly cry or not. I'm gonna have snot and everything coming down my face. But this girl could barely even look at the camera the entire time she was talking on this video.
I'm not going to say that she's wrong or right, but what I'm saying is that people process their emotions differently.
I have no reason to lie to y'all. But I want to let y'all know that the disrespect for my uncle, it has to stop, because this man has done nothing. And the reason why you don't hear him saying anything is because he knows that this is an open case. And when you have an open case, just like we see on The Housewives with Karen Huger and anybody else that goes through a case, you cannot talk about it until the case is over. So Isis, this is my message to you. I hope to God that you got your ducks in a row. I hope you hired a new lawyer after the last lawyer sat up there and took herself away from your case because she seen that it was no case. So I hope you hired a really good lawyer, or I hope these people give you enough money to where you can get you a good lawyer.
Oh, they will. If the internet gonna do anything, they gonna swoop in for support. It's gonna be somebody supporting everybody.
Because, baby, you going under the jail. And I hope these people crucify you for all the lies that you have got on here and told. You are not a good person. You are not a good mother. You only, and even right now, you're still out there looking for the next victim.
No, she didn't.
You're out here looking for the next victim, and that's so, like, I'm laughing because that's so fucking sad. But you need not come for me and mine. You need to know that. Because this man does not deserve it.
I'm sorry, y'all.
And I know some that do. But he doesn't. So for all of you out there that had the good mind of thinking that she was a liar and that she was just putting on to get sympathy points, yes, she is. And I'm sorry that the rest of you fell for the okie doke and you have egg on your face right now. Because that's what you get for listening to stupid stuff on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok. You're listening to that stuff and you don't even know the whole story. You don't even care to find out the whole story. You're just going to condemn a person, say that you wish them dead, that they should be under the jail and all this other extra stuff, when the justice system doesn't even feel that way because they don't have any evidence that he did anything.
I just had deja vu, which makes me a little scared. I'm going to be honest with you. I just had deja vu about her saying that. I had deja vu of the image that I see. Like, I'm going to try to take a screenshot and show you guys of my StreamYard screen. I put the screenshot on the screen so you guys can see what I was seeing, but I just had deja vu of me seeing that image in my head. And I'm gonna tell y'all right now, because I'm not exactly sure how to reference or pinpoint what the deja vu means, but there's something that's gonna come out about this story that I feel will be extremely unexpected. The intention that she has, D, behind making this video is not going to have the reaction that she thought it was going to have once everything comes out. And I don't think Isis's video is going to have the reaction that she thought it was going to have when everything comes out. She said a lot, but it is true that when you bring things to the internet, you have to be very careful about when and where and how and why you bring things to the internet, because it may not have the intended result that you originally set out to achieve.
So please, next topic, next subject. I better not see no more. I better not see no more.
Girl, and my thing is, what are you going to do about it if you do? Because it's obviously going to be more like, chill, bro. Say what you got to say, but chill with all that.
Because when he come out, baby, all y'all that's out there right now talking junk are going to be so sick because this girl is sick. Her and her son.
She might be. It could be a whole problem, honey. It could be a whole ISIS could be a whole lie. And she might be. Because her actions are a little bit weird. We're not gonna act like it's not weird. But we're also not gonna act like there's not a deeper rooted issue for why she's taking this action. And we're not gonna act like there aren't other variables that have possibly created this monster.
I'm sorry to say it, because I don't want to talk about nobody else's kid. But if it's the truth, it's the truth. So they're going to get theirs. Don't worry. They're going to get theirs, and they're going to get the help that they need, hopefully. And I hope all y'all out there that's sitting over there calling my uncle all kinds of names, saying that he needs to die and all this other extra stuff, I hope y'all are the ones that help her get the help, because y'all need it right along with her. Have a nice day. Signing off.
Ciao. I already know this video is long as dirt, okay? And for those of you who are still here, I really appreciate it. Be sure to like and subscribe so that we can continue to uplift the tribe. And now we've finally gotten through all of what Dee, the niece of ISIS's estranged husband, had to say. Now, you guys let me know what you feel about what she said in the comments. Let me know any details that you think I might have missed. However, after all of this news somewhat broke, so to speak, online, ISIS went live and did a tweet and delete. Well, it wasn't a tweet, but it was a YouTube live that she did and then deleted it. But told y'all I was being nosy. I went ahead and screen recorded it like so many other people. And I just want to play that for you real quick because it is a quick video, but I want to play that for you real quick. And then I will come to you with the overall point that I feel like a lot of people are missing when it comes to this entire situation as a whole.
Hi, everyone. I couldn't get on here fast enough. I couldn't get on here fast enough when I heard people are trying to blame my son. I couldn't get on here fast enough. Couldn't get on here fast enough. I thought I heard someone who I've never met in my life coming on here trying to blame my son. Someone whom I've never met in my life trying to come on here and blame my son for the sick and disgusting things that my daughter's father was doing.
Y'all, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's just the campaigning. It just gets to me. Like, both of these women are campaigning. I thought we already voted for the president, okay? Because both of these women are campaigning, and it's so over dramatized. And I'm not saying that there's not a reason for it to be very visceral and potent and to have a lot of feelings and emotions involved and passion, but the campaigning is ridiculous. I thought I heard somewhat, girl, give us a break and just let us know what you need to say, please. Because I'm long-winded, but it's because my mind is kind of ADHD. And I think that she's trying to convince us of something with this for sure. And she has, in her mind, she has to say something because there were too many details that were, I feel, close to the truth in what her estranged husband's niece, Dee, said, that she had to come on here and clarify because her emotions are triggered. And because now it's made her look bad as a mother, not only on top of what Dee said, but what everybody else has been finding on the internet. So she had to come on here and exonerate herself and say something. And also, I don't believe the fact that she's never met Dee, because if this is her quote unquote husband's niece, which means that her husband's sibling is Dee's parent, I don't know how ISIS would have never met her. That seems a little bit of a stretch, because if Dee was claiming that she's getting this information from things that she's not only seen but heard about, she had to at some point be around the kids. But you never know, because with what we found out about ISIS, you never know who was watching over the kids. And I just feel like she's lying about that. I feel like she's lying about not having met Dee.
This is not a game. This is not a game. How dare you? How dare you blame this on an innocent child? You talk about you got proof? You have proof? I've got proof right here. Right here. Show me your paperwork. Show me your paperwork. You talk about I am saying something different than when I was in court. Honey, you weren't even there. I've seen you in my life. It's not very good. Oh my gosh. Y'all want to see my protective order? Y'all want to see my protective order right here? I'm going to cover my daughter's name. I'm going to cover my daughter's name.
And I'm gonna say this, and it might be controversial, but I feel like her doing that, covering her daughter's name, was the first thing that she did in a long while other than leaving her estranged ex-husband to protect her child. Ooh, and I know that might be petty, y'all. I'm glad. I was so happy when she covered her name, and I know it might sound petty. Argue with me in the comments, but I was scared that she was gonna show that paperwork without covering that baby's name.
In the case of a vulnerable adult and a minor child, a relative, there is a preponderance of the evidence to believe that the respondent committed the following acts of abuse.
And preponderance means there is enough speculative evidence to convince a judge, I believe, to grant the protective order.
Statutory abuse of a child. R word or a statutory S offense. Father has been coming into two-year-old and 4-year-old daughters' rooms and SAing them. This is from the judge. There's the case number. It matches the records. There's the proof. There's the proof. There's the proof. I'm done. That's all. I'm done.
Oh, Lord have mercy, Jesus. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say to you all to give you any type of solace or advice or recommendation other than what I've already said in this video. I don't know who's right, who's wrong. I don't know who's at fault and who's not. This is a mess. And I feel that it doesn't really matter who's the one who did it. The point is that those kids need to get the help that they need. And they need to have somebody advocating for them. And I hope and pray that ISIS is advocating for these kids. But that's what brings me to my final point of this video. That's what brings me to the reason why I felt like I had to make this follow-up video that is extremely long, which hopefully editing can shorten it down. But I feel the main point that everyone is missing in this situation is in fact that it's about the kids, and people are pointing that out. However, the reason I say it's the most important point of this whole situation is not for the obvious reason that they're making it when it comes to the kids' safety and their well-being. But a lot of people are dogging out ISIS for what she's done to publicize this and the fact that her children haven't had a choice in the matter. And a lot of people are dogging out the niece for defending her estranged ex-husband. And what people don't understand about this whole spectrum that we've gone on and the extreme highs and lows that we've all experienced from this whole process. It really wasn't any highs, it was really just lows. But what people aren't grasping, even though ISIS's decision, and again, it's gonna sound like I'm rooting for ISIS, I'm ISIS's cheerleader, say what you want, but I'm looking at this from a perspective of progress and change. And in the first video, I said that everyone's looking at ISIS, but what we are really being told and advised and directed by our source creator to focus on is the fact that this situation is more prevalent than we all think. And there are predators out there that are actually doing the crimes that ISIS is alleging that her estranged husband has done. And that is the main point of all of this coming out. And regardless of whether or not people think that ISIS's decisions are poor or that she's a bad mother, or maybe some people who believe that she's a good mother and she's doing the right thing, this story has polarized so many people, and it has shown an extremely bright light on situations like this that can happen in each and every one of our daily lives. And for many of us, it has happened before. And that is the point of what people are missing. I'm not going to say that I agree with ISIS, but I do not have a problem with the fact that she brought this to the internet, even though unfortunately those babies are a sad casualty in this situation. It is a positive thing that she brought this situation to the awareness of the public. She has gotten over 2 million views, maybe more, on a video about a man feeling like it was okay to allegedly, possibly victimize a child, which is something that we're all aware of and is in the forefront of our minds because of public figures, people at Abercrombie and Fitch, people related or connected to Diddy, people who were a part of the Quiet on Set documentary. There are a perverse amount of perverse individuals who, up until until this point, and as we speak, have not yet been held accountable for their actions and for their crimes against children. And regardless of what ISIS has done, regardless of what her estranged husband has done, and regardless of what the family members are doing, the awareness that's being brought to this prevalently obtuse issue is good, in my opinion, because this whole situation needs to be dealt with. There are too many people who victimize or attempt to victimize the most valuable members of our society, which is our children. They are the most valuable members because when we're too old and dusty and crusty to be able to do anything for ourselves, they're the ones who are going to be helping us to do it. They're the ones who are going to be working in the nursing homes, hopefully. They're the ones who are going to be working and perpetuating the human race. They are the most vital members of our society. Now, elderly people, I feel like, are the second most vital members of our society because they hold the key to the past and they can tell us how moving forward in certain directions could yield certain results because of their experience. But at this particular moment in time, when there's so much talk about low birth rates and different issues with fertility, children are the most valuable members of our society. And regardless of how you feel about ISIS, regardless of how you feel about her estranged husband, and regardless of how you feel about this woman D, who is his niece, the fact that this issue is bringing awareness to a bigger issue that we all need to really sit back for a second and process and take a look at is a very good thing. But see, so many people don't see it as a good thing. And so many people are quick to judge ISIS in her decisions, which I feel is warranted. She's made some questionable decisions. She's been a questionable mother. But at the end of the day, with the societal issues and challenges that we all face and that we're all facing on a daily basis that we've been facing for several years, who can actually blame her? I'm not saying that she shouldn't do better. I'm not saying that she should have known better. But what I'm saying is, who can blame her? The reason why these things happen is because all of us are looking for a way to survive. I myself am at a point right now where I don't know what the next day is gonna bring. No guarantees have been made. No promises are here. We're all trying to figure it out and work our way through this maze of bullshit that has been placed on us by prior generations and the choices that we've made up until this point thus far. So while I may not agree with all of ISIS's decisions, and while I may not agree with all of the niece's decisions, I understand that everyone is out here trying to get a coin and trying to survive. And we're all figuring it out along the way. So if you think that it's okay to critique and judge another person for the way that they figured out how to make it happen, it's a bit hypocritical. And yes, we would wish that parents had better judgment, but take a look around, guys. Go to your local ghetto, find your local hood. There's women and men, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, grandmothers and grandfathers, nieces and nephews, aunts and uncles, making very precarious decisions when it comes to children every single day. I live in a neighborhood right now that's more dangerous than my prior neighborhood. I used to live in a single family home that I rented, but I had to move and life happens. Now I'm in a townhome that's a part of a neighborhood where there's a totally different aesthetic and there's a totally different vibe. I had to teach my son, since you get off the bus on a busy main street and there are people coming into the neighborhood who don't care about you, bring your behind home. Because I caught him up there at the front of the neighborhood, hanging around the gate to the neighborhood where people speed through even though there's a speed bump, who don't have any recollection that there's even a child. And even though I've taught him how to cross the road properly and I've taught him the rules of how he should walk home, you never know. But there are parents of children who every day I see their kids coming off the bus, lollygagging around, playing around, and that's fine because I don't know their situation and I am not privy to or obliged to, or nor should I tell them what to do with their children or tell their children what to do. But I watch them every day get off of the bus and run around in the street. Cars are coming through the gate and they just running and crossing like the cars are just gonna automatically stop for them. And that's not necessarily true. So while we may all be able to sit here and put this microscope on ISIS and judge her for her choices as a mother, for her decisions coming from a mentality of a single mother, we gotta stop. We gotta take a step back and really think about why this is happening and what perpetuated her decisions to be what they are. Because if there was such a concern for her older children, where was the children's father at when it comes comes to making sure that they're in good hands, or when it comes to getting custody of those children, if Isis was such a bad mother. And if it's true that she does get found out to be a negligent parent, I feel that her children's fathers, the other children, the older children's fathers, should also be held accountable for not stepping in and taking action and allowing for negligence to take place. Because we're not going to sit here and act like the fathers don't know what's going on. Sometimes they may not, but sometimes, more times than not, the fathers know what's going on, because everybody's going to blame ISIS, and we have to look at those situations. We also not only have to look at the fathers and why they may have been complacent when it comes to letting a negative mother continue to operate, but we also have to look at the system. And if these cases that D is talking about within the system occurred, why was there no action to step in to remove these children from ISIS's care? If you're going to say, well, the state or, the jurisdiction may not have the funds or resources to be able to do that. Well, if we have funds and resources to be able to do all of these other things that aren't focusing on such an important issue as children, then maybe we should be reevaluating where we invest our funds. Because I know the funds are not there in the DCFS or DFAC system. I know that children are neglected a lot of the times. And I know in my conspiracy theory brain that there's a deeper reason for that. That's for another video. But if you guys are picking up what I'm throwing down, then you know what I'm talking about. Because sometimes strategically people remove resources so that there can be easy access to vulnerability. But we also need to look at that aspect of the situation as well. So I bring up all these points to say, with our most important point being that this is providing vital eyes and knowledge of a situation that's been running rampant for so long. I bring up all these things to try to help you guys understand how to think objectively about situations. Both of these women are using your emotions and your passions to get you to campaign for them and to be on their side. They're trying to gain empathy and sympathy from you, respectively, for their own reasons, to become more believable. And a very important thing that we should all remember that this situation is teaching us is that things are going to continue to be exposed. Things that we've been aware of that have been happening in the shadows, behind the curtain, in the dark, are going to be more prevalently visible, and they are going to be exposed. These types of situations have gone on for too long, and they're being brought into the light so that hopefully we can be smart enough to make a change in our existence and as people. And I feel like that right there, that main point of the amount of awareness that we now have on this issue being in the forefront of our mind, and the fact that it could possibly initiate change, although it had to be at the detriment of these children, is a good thing. I never want to condemn an individual, whether they're an adult or a child, to have some type of bleak expectation on life just because something negative happened to them. I don't see these children ultimately as victims. I know they've been victimized, but I don't see them as victims, because I don't believe that it's right to condemn a child to a horrible life just because they experienced something bad. It's like you're writing them off or counting them out as if they could never become anything great. And oftentimes, as you've heard from many millionaires and billionaires and people who talk about how they gained wealth, there was a pivotal moment that changed them for the rest of their life, which brought them to a point where they felt like they had to make a difference or make some type of change. And I'm not just talking about rich people. I'm talking about people that have made developments within communities and tried to make a positive imprint on the people who they relate to. And I believe that this situation could possibly be the turning point for a lot of children who are being victimized or who could possibly be victimized in the future. And the more light that is shown on these types of things, the more that we can prevent it from happening and take action steps to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And I feel that this could be something that in the future, these kids hopefully can look back on and understand as being very important when it comes to making change. And they may even become people who are extremely instrumental for the change that needs to take place. So again, I only wish positivity for these children. I honestly only wish positivity for this entire family. And I hope that with all of these situations and as things continue to unfold, that there is some type of resolve that they have as individuals to where they're able to see maybe the errors of their ways or the ways that they may be able to improve upon their lives. Because listen, when I say life teaches you lessons, life really teaches you lessons. And sometimes people from the outside can point you in the right direction, information, but it's never going to get through to people until it happens sometimes directly to them. And I hope that all of this that's going on can teach these people how to see themselves in a different light and possibly how to just make better decisions. So you guys let me know in the comments if there's anything that you think I missed. Let me know what you think about this video, because I know it was extremely long and I know I'm probably gonna be upset with myself as I watch this back and I'm editing it for how long it is. Yes, very upset with yourself. Good Lord. But I feel like there were a lot of lessons that we could learn and a lot of points that I wanted to bring up about this situation when it comes to everything that's going down, when it comes to the language and the tone of this conversation, and when it comes to the different details that I felt like didn't line up. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please be sure to be as positive as possible. I really don't want the negativity in the comments section, but express your opinions and express your opinions honestly so that we can have a conversation about the different things that I spoke about throughout this video. I really appreciate you guys, and if you want to help the channel, be sure to like and subscribe so that we can continue to uplift the tribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.